much for coming tonight. Wonderful to have you all here. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. We've got a big program. Now, unfortunately, we are a little bit low on numbers. We were expecting 15 in total, which is a bit low from the rest of the workshops. But I hear it's about quality, not quantity. So I know we're here with good people. So thank you. My name is Matthew Gordon, and this is Eyal Halamish.
How are you going?
Bonus points if you can pronounce his name at the end of the night. We're from our same. We've been engaged by Yarra Rangers Shire to talk with the community to develop a community plan. Before we really get into it, I might just ask Councillor Cox to welcome you here tonight.
Thanks, and it's really good to see. You just said we're a bit short on numbers, and that's a pity. But those that are here, it's really good to have you here tonight. And before I say anything else, I'm not going to say much actually, but I just want to apologise for your local ward councillor Randy Whitlocks, who works in the city, and he just couldn't get here tonight, unfortunately. He did say to me that he was very disappointed that he couldn't come, but he'd try to get here later, but he works very late hours. So, welcome everybody. I hope you get a lot out of tonight. It's just council every year draws up a plan for the next 12 months, what we're going to do. And this actually, we're looking at 4 years on this occasion. And as you'll all be aware, we've got our 2020 vision, which was drawn up back in the year 2000. And I can remember it being drawn up then, and I'm thinking, oh, well, that'll last us forever. It's amazing how the time goes. But this will add to that, modernise it, bring it more up to date with what people want and what vision people have got for the Shire for the future. So I'm going to leave you in the good hands of these two young fellas over here, and I hope you get a lot out of it tonight. Thanks for coming.
So I wanted just to spend a little bit of time talking about why we're here today, and then cover off on some rules of engagement as well, just to work out how we want to work throughout the night. We'll then just give a quick update on actually some consultation today. We've actually been running an online forum for the last 6 to 8 weeks now, and so we're actually getting some really interesting data that's coming through that, and I'd like to communicate that to you. And then we will actually start delving into the community priorities and trying to figure out what are some of the leading issues that are coming through that online forum, and then also what are some of the priorities that you guys want to see over the next 4 years and next 20 years as well. And then a bit of where to from here, and we'll spend a bit of time just talking about how we can keep the conversation going. It's a pretty full agenda, so is it okay if Eyal and I just keep the conversation going as we need to? I think we'll have plenty of chance to talk tonight because there's so few of you, so it'll be a rich conversation. So while we're here, look, Council wants to develop a community vision for the next 20 years, so out to 2036. And so over the last 8 weeks and over the last few community conferences that we've been running, we've actually been getting the community presenting their vision directly into a report, which we're about to publish. And also we've been capturing key priorities for the next 4 years, because every council, once elected, then has to develop a council plan which allocates priorities for the next term of office. So we want to make sure that when that new council is inducted, we can be really clear about what the community's priorities are in that. And the way we're actually going to do it, at each table we'll elect someone to chair the conversation and also someone to scribe the conversation. You notice there's a computer on each table. We'll actually be capturing, asking the scribes to capture the conversation directly into the template, which is on the desktop. The content straight out of that template will go straight into a community report. We're then going to hear from some of the leading submitters who have posted on the Our Safe forum and already got lots of votes on their ideas, and some of them are here tonight, and we'll be hearing about their ideas. And we'll also be turning directly to Troy Edwards, who will be responding directly to those ideas. And then we want to try and figure out at each table what are the things that council can be doing, and what are the things that the community could be doing to respond to each of those ideas. And then we're going to move into that broader conversation about 4-year priorities and then 20-year priorities. All make sense? Great. It's really important that scribes capture, as close as possible the conversation, because we're literally going to take that text and put it straight into a report, and will be published over the next few days. So the conversation that happened tonight, you guys will be able to read up on, and the conversations at the last two of these community conferences, and the next one. We'll also have separate reports that we can read, you can download and find out what all the different community conversations are about. And then at the very end, we're going to blend it all into one big report. We'll just do a quick report. So we've been running an online forum for the last 6 to 8 weeks. This was a snapshot from last week, actually. You can jump on there right now if you like and see what the range of ideas are. In fact, right now it says there's 134.
It's 169.
Yeah, we've got 100.
It's 169 ideas currently and 1,357 votes.
Okay, awesome. So it's already gone up since 4 o'clock today. And how many people engaged?
I don't know that number.
Yep. So about 344 people have either registered to put in an idea, vote, or comment on an idea. So it's that's pretty impressive. And we're going to open it up for another 3 weeks. So it's an opportunity, once maybe some good ideas come up tonight, maybe you learn something or discover something else that could be added into that vision. We'd love to see it happen online as well. And so tonight's really the kind of the start, not the end of the engagement process. In terms of where these ideas are coming from, we've got a pretty good mix of age groups, although I'd have to say the thin red wedge there is the 16 to 25. How many people aged between 16 and 25, other than me? Yep, Jen, thought so. So we've only got a couple, probably 5% in that age bracket. 38% age between 26 and 40. That's good to see. 40% in that 40 to 60 bracket, and about 17% age over 60. So reasonable spread. Significant bias to women being involved in this project. And if you break down the number of votes, so everyone gets to spend up to 7 votes on the forum, and so if we kind of look at just the spread of votes, we do see that there's a bit more of an even split around the 26 all the way to the 60 plus, and we do see a lot more 16 to 25 year olds influencing the conversation. So it's good to see. We probably want to see some more younger people that are engaged in this process. When we sort of look at the breadth of where ideas are coming from, so this is by the postcodes of where ideas have been submitted from across the municipality, and one of the things that we've noticed about this municipality is the needs and aspirations in different pockets and hamlets and townships across the whole municipality are completely different to each other. And so it's important to get a really good spread of different communities. And so we are capturing essentially all compass points of the municipality, which is great. So up into Coldstream, out around Kilsyth area, Montrose, all the way up to East Warburton, down into sort of the Dandenong Ranges, Linda Park area. So that's really great to see. We also capture trending topics across the forum as well. And so these are some of the trending topics people have been tagging their ideas with. And it just goes to show actually the breadth of issues and challenges that council deal with. I'm just reading through there. We're seeing everything from tourism to riverwalk safety, research planning, emissions, public transport, phone towers, children, public transport, swimming, weeds management, domestic violence. Wow, I mean, there's this huge number of amount of subject matter that the council deals with, and so it actually gets us to start thinking about, okay, well maybe what's important, or what I thought was important to me might not necessarily be important to the rest of the community, and maybe there's some other dimensions or issues that I should be thinking about when putting forward or recommending plans for the next 4 years or even 20 years. What we're going to do is actually going to hear from the authors of the top ideas posted so far, and then we're going to hear from Troy Edwards, who's the Director for Corporate Services. So this is one of the key departments, Corporate Service Department, within Council, so it'll be interesting to hear his perspectives. And then we're actually going to ask each table to discuss what can council be doing about this idea and what can community be doing about this idea. And it's going to be a fairly quick process because we want to move very quickly to steps 4 and 5, which is about talking about the 4-year priorities and then the visioning process. Okay? So, without further ado, is Katie Kookaburra in the room? Come up, Mary. Do you want to come up?
Oh, we really got to come up?
Yeah. We'd love to capture you on camera again. Thank you. Katie Kookaburra, otherwise known as Mary Wicking. Wyking, beg pardon. Mary Wyking has posted this idea, and it's been quite a rally over the last few days. I might just invite you to come up here.
Thank you. Okay, good evening everybody. The reason Katie Kookaburra exists is because I run a B&B and I had to set up a Facebook page, and I didn't like the idea of having a Facebook page in my personal name, so I set it up under Katie Kookaburra because we have about 12 Kookaburras who visit. And so I have Katie Kookaburra on my iPad, and on my phone I have Mary Wyking, and I just happen to use my iPad so when I'm to do this. So that's why you've got Katie Kookaburra. But it's probably been a good thing because it's captured people's imagination, so that's really good. Okay, so here goes. Tourism is one of the major industries in the Yarra Ranges, and yet the Yarra Ranges Council doesn't have a tourism button on its website. No one visiting the Yarra Ranges Council's website would know what jewels exist in this area. This raises the question of how committed the council is to tourism. Tourism brings in millions of dollars and has the potential to increase to billions of dollars, thereby providing employment, support and safeguard for the environment, improvement of infrastructure and support for its communities. Everyone benefits. Council needs to educate itself on the potential possibilities rather than be obstructive and inhibitive. There is a major gap in Council's development department, and that is tourism. Council needs to work and be seen to work cooperatively with businesses, communities and individuals towards a common purpose of making the Yarra Ranges a place of great beauty, opportunity and a wonderful place to live. And Council's going to tell you that it hands over a lot of money to Yarra Ranges Tourism, whose role is to promote tourism in this region. And if that's the case, why aren't they making the absolute most of that money by having at least a button on their website? Thank you.
I invite Troy to respond to the major gap.
Thanks, Mary. Good evening, everyone. Very passionate response. I can get a clear sense of your passion and commitment. Obviously, you're at the forefront of an important part of our economy, not just for the community, but also for the millions of visitors we have as well. So I suppose I'm interested in how can we harness your passion and commitment. I think you highlighted a particular issue there around websites and connectivity. That's certainly an opportunity for council to make sure we can connect, not just with the visitors that are coming to us, but the local employment providers and the businesses. How do we build those relationships? And I think that's certainly something we can deal with quickly. But I guess, Mary, I'm interested in how can we keep talking to you and how can we get you involved in not just what council does, but what the industry does.
We're ready to talk.
So let's go, let's make it happen.
Okay, so
Good.
we'll. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Troy. So what we're going to do, we're going to spend the next 3 minutes discussing what council can be doing to resolve this challenge that you've just heard, and then we're going to quickly shift to another 3-minute discussion about what we think the community can be doing to resolve this issue. Okay? All right, sound good? All under control? And so for the scribes, we're really keen to make sure we get the conversation recorded. Okay? All right, time starts now. Thanks, guys. All right, so it's a pretty quick conversation, but we are going to move on to the next one. Unfortunately, Belinda and her son Lockie couldn't make it tonight. They came to the one last week. It was great to see them there. So I'm going to read it out on Lockie's behalf. a new playground for Upwey Central. My name is Lockie and I'm nearly 2. Over the next 20 years I hope that Yarra Ranges is a great place to be as a kid. Like most kids, I love playgrounds and I would love to see a really fun playground built in Upwey. Upwey doesn't have many playgrounds, so I'm sure it will be used well and very much appreciated. A new and exciting playground would certainly make a trip to Upwey shops much more interesting for me and my mother as well. I have some ideas for what the playground could look like, could include, and I'm sure other kids in Upwey do too. Please plan for play in Upwey. Thanks Belinda for that idea. And also Belinda noted the closest playground is about a 3.5-hour walk from where she lives, so quite challenging. We've also got another similar idea from Tyler, and actually I've got, Tyler's been kind enough to make a short film about his idea, so I'm just going to play that for you.
Hi, my name is Tyler Meldenhall. I am 10 years old and I love to ride skateboards. I would like to talk to you about building a skate park in Woorolloc down at Symes Road at the park. I think we need a skate park in Woorolloc because Mount Evelyn and Yarra Junction are too far away and they get crowded with older kids and we don't get a turn. Please, could you discuss this proposal at the next council meeting, as there are many kids in Woorolloc that would think this is awesome. There is enough room to build one at the park and it's not on a main road. It is a great spot and would make living in Woorolloc even better for my mates and I. It would be a cool spot to meet your friends after school and on the weekends. Thank you for voting.
Thank you, Tyler. So to respond to those 2 ideas, I'm going to hand over to Troy.
I'm not too sure that one needs too much of a response, does it? A bit hard to argue with that. Obviously, making sure that we're planning for our young people is really important. Okay, that's something that we're committed to, and you know, there are a number of exciting play spaces that have been awarded nationally in our municipality, and the playground at Yarra Glen springs to mind. But I think the important thing is, how do we work with communities where they don't have access to those types of facilities? How can we plan now? We can make sure that Lockie's got a park to play in another 2 or 3 years. That'd be fantastic for him as he goes through the age where he can make the most of it. And I think, you know, Tyler, similarly, how do we make the most of that? We've got, I think, 9 BMX/skate facilities at the moment. We're going through a planning process right now to look at it. So I think it's how do we make the most of those opportunities and create potential for that. And I think part of that is how do we engage with school kids in some of that planning, particularly for their types of facilities, which I think goes to Michael's point a bit earlier today. How can we get them involved in that as well?
Thank you, Troy. So we'll move back to you guys. So another 3 minutes on what can council be doing to resolve some of these challenges, and then we'll shift the conversation to what the community can be doing to resolve some of these challenges. So I'll hand over to you. Thank you. So we're actually, the next part of the conversation, there's been a couple of ideas that have been posted. This one from Mick. For transparency, Mick has a Vic Forest email account. So we know he's coming from Vic Forest. And it says, do not support the Great Forest National Park. But we're also going to deal with this idea in the same time as dealing with Lou's idea, which is a new Great Forest National Park that provides quality and diverse experience for locals and tourists alike, that also protects and enhances biodiversity and water quality across the Yarra Ranges. So quite a contentious issue by the sounds of things. It's the toss-up between local economy and local jobs and the environment as well. And to respond to that dilemma, I'll hand over to Troy.
Well, that's a bit of a tough one for a public servant to offer on one hand and the other. Clearly, it's an issue that's divisive in the community. I think that goes without saying. With a lot of supporters for the creation of a national park, but also equally a number of supporters for retaining the forestry industry in those areas. Clearly, there's no policy at the moment at state level to create the Great Forest National Park. We understand the state government has got a task force looking at the issue. We're not involved, and it won't be our decision, but it's certainly an issue that engages our residents. it impacts on our economy. Late last year, Council commissioned some research to have a look at the economics of it, one way or the other. That report's available on our website if you want to have a look. But it's certainly a challenge, and it's a challenge for our elected reps, federal, state and local level, and it's not going away anytime soon.
We're actually we're going to bring it back together. We've got one more actually, which we're going to do, mainly because we've been bunching up a couple of those other ideas. But this was one that was presented last week by Jenny, who got up and spoke at the last forum on Thursday night last week. Food planting throughout the township, from veggies in planter boxes, along with ornamentals to fruit trees along road verges or vacant pockets of land. Imagine tapping the abundance of horticultural knowledge and know-how in this amazing soil and climate zone we inhabit. Let's educate and feed our community. Plenty of towns across the planet have been successful with this. Enhance the local economy, build community, expand ways of managing risk. And that's from Jenny with 59 votes. And I'll hand over to Troy.
Thanks, mate. So again, I think this is one where, local governments across Australia are seeing their community quite engaged with the notion of community gardens. How do we undertake food plantings? We've got a number of activities already underway that hopefully provide a platform to do more of this type of work. Things like the Eastern Alliance for Sustainable Living, our partnership with ECOS up in the Warburton Valley. We've got community gardens in places like Tacoma and that at the moment. So how do we make more of that? I suppose I'm interested in how we engage with people like Jenny and capture their ideas about where we could do more food plantings. Recently, Council passed some guidelines on nature strips. I don't necessarily say, plant a whole lot of fruit trees on your nature strip. It does start to create the opportunity to say what sort of plantings might be put on nature strips to grow food and those types of things. So I think this is a movement that's out there already, and it's about how do we engage with the community and give them more of a say in whether they might like to see it.
Thanks, Troy. Okay, I think you know the drill by now, so I'll hand over to you. Thanks, guys. All right. So we're about halfway through the night, and so we've got through the first part, which is great. Just to the scribes, I might just encourage you to press save again. That's all right. Awesome. So we're actually now going to move into the second part, and look, this is going to be perhaps a little bit more of a challenging conversation, so we're going to allow a lot more time for this one. But one of the things we want to do is get each of the tables discussing what do you want to see Council focus on for the next 4 years. Okay, and so the way we're going to do this actually is, you'll notice in the template, we'd like to get a focus area from everyone on the table. So one kind of key priority from each person around the table. And so you'll need to spend about half the time talking about that. Then what we're actually going to do is have a more deliberate discussion at each table. And the challenge is, I want you to be able to then see if you can all agree on a focus idea that sits above everyone else's idea. Okay, so what we want to do is first start off with, what do each of us as individuals want Council to focus on for the next 4 years? And then once we've heard all that, we want to note all those down in dot points. The second part of the conversation is, I want you to deliberate and see if you can actually have the whole table agreeing on one focus idea that might sit above all of those things. Now, I don't think you'll be able to do it because it's going to be pretty challenging. All right, so I'm going to give you a full 20 minutes for this conversation, and I'll give you a warning signal around 10 minutes. So after about 10 minutes, you pretty much want to have wrapped up the individual focus area and then actually start shifting into the other part of the conversation. Okay? Make sense? All right, time starts now. Awesome to hear all of you guys just deep in conversation. So what I wanted to do now is just actually hear from each table what was, if we landed on a big kind of idea for the council plan. So we listened to everyone's ideas, but how did we go about deliberating on a focus area for the table?
Okay, so essentially managing the commitment from council to support the infrastructure that goes into housing. Essentially, expanding on that, everything we talked about kind of came into infrastructure in the end. So like, you can't just put a housing development in without considering everything that comes under that. And everything that we touched on, from NBN to tourism, what do we have, education, public transport, it all sort of sits under how smart you are with your infrastructure and how smart you are with your sort of developments. I sort of raise my hand for the infrastructure one, not being anti-development, but you've got to sort of plan really, really smartly for sort of how you go about things. And it just seemed to tie everything together.
So considered planning decisions that cover off on a lot of areas.
Essentially, there's no one thing that's important or to be focused on. When you're planning like that, there's so much that comes into it. NBN obviously going to affect your tourism, going to affect education, going to affect.
And what was it in particular that you wanted in that, with that kind of goal in mind? What would be sort of something, a key result or something for council to specifically focus on?
Thinking of infrastructure, there's no such thing as one key thing. That's kind of it's that mindfulness that you've got to sort of go for.
Okay.
And there's so much involved in that kind of planning.
Awesome.
Well, it's just that, as everything that we talked about, whether it be education, whether it be infrastructure, whether it be NBN or whatever, tourism brings it in. It needs those things. It needs all of those aspects of this council and this region to have. You can't run a B&B with, when people come these days to stay, they're bringing 3 devices each. That means if you've got 4 people staying, they've got 12 devices that need to be. And if all you've got in Linda is Wi-Fi, you cannot provide that service, you can't provide that service. Therefore, you're at a disadvantage before you even get started. And all of these issues, people who live in Healesville, they're building new houses in Healesville, but there's not enough ports in the exchange to give these new houses even access to ADSL. There's so many, and this is supposed to be a first world country, for goodness sake. I'm sorry, I feel very exasperated.
I think we kind of decided that our focus was on asking council to communicate 100% with people in the community, so that everybody feels that they have the confidence to be able to, say their opinion and be able to tell council how they feel, and their voice is heard. And that we perhaps shouldn't have a meeting just every 4 years. We should have a meeting and be consulted more often than that.
So it's about making sure council...
and communicating about these sorts of events to the public as well.
Yep.
So a lot of people here didn't even know that, kind of just found out about this, but not a lot of people didn't even know about these consultation things. This is a very small cohort of the council, really. It's a bit disappointing that there's not more people here.
And just following on from what Rebecca said, there are forms of communication that have worked. Obviously, it's very disappointing that there are only 10 people here tonight, but council truly needs to rethink how they communicate with the community, because at the end of the day, it's the community who are going to support the council, and if they're not able to be communicated with properly and understood and look at all the issues that they're not looking at the moment, and it does go beyond roads, rates and rubbish, whether they like it or not, and it doesn't have to cost money to do that. They need to really look, and one of the things that has worked, particularly in this area a few years ago, is postcards. So you need to look at areas that perhaps are still not connected with technology to get to the masses that aren't conversant with technology. Yeah. There are older folks still in Yarra Ranges that have not got the technology, and they are not getting conversant with.
67% of the older community aren't connected to the internet. Yeah. So that's a huge percentage that are being dismissed, basically.
Thanks again for all those ideas and for being very open with your thoughts around that. It's really valuable to get the room filled with the ideas that are coming, not just from this room, but also from people outside this room. And what we're going to do now is we've just thought about this for the next 4 years, but now we're going to go even further into the future, up to about 20 years from now. And so we're thinking about, what can we do in 4 years, but what can we actually do? What do we want this community to look and feel like within 20 years? And as we said before, this is very relevant to some of the younger people in the room here today, and also maybe some of the younger people who aren't in this room. I want you at your tables to have a reflection on that question. Thinking 20 years from now, ideally, how would you like your arrangements to be? And again, to our scribes, to be noting as much of that as possible as we pull together. We'll give you about 10 minutes to have a conversation about this. Over to you. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you so much for to our scribes. Big round of applause to our scribes. And a big round of applause to our chairs for keeping us to task. And thank you for everyone who came tonight for sharing your ideas and being open and considerate of the other ideas in the room. And also thank you to the councillors and also the council staff that stayed down here tonight with us and helped us pull this together. So thank you to you. If you remember at your tables, let's press save on those documents to make sure we've got those. And so from tonight, these insights are going to feed directly into a community report that's been written basically by the community. So you'll be able to see the ideas that came through tonight's event as well as the other events that have come up that have been around the Shire. And that report will be live within a few days after the end of the consultation. The other thing is, like we said, there was a number of ideas that were shared here that we said, you know, there's some that have been put on the table, maybe some haven't been considered as much, and so there's still an opportunity to get the ideas up on the online forum, and so you can submit those ideas, you can share them in the community and make sure that we've got as many people in the Shire participating. Just in the time that we were here, there was another 10 people that jumped on and were submitting ideas and voting for ideas, so it's happening in real time. And you know, some of those who've participated, I've seen Mary sharing it around a few different networks and getting other people in the community supporting her idea. But that's the website, so if you do want to get more involved, make sure you note that down. Or if you go to the council website, there's a link that sends you directly to the RSA site as well. But make sure you note that down. Just a final thank you from the council from this ward. I'll just hand over to you.
Hi, I'm Andrew. Sorry I was late at the start, but thanks for coming. I like this process. I think I was a little bit sceptical at first. I think I hear some of the comments around how council communicates, and I would have liked to see more people here too. And I think we can do a better job of that next time maybe. But it's interesting to see some of the ideas that are coming up. They are a bit different to what we've seen before through the normal consultation process by telephone and so on. So you usually get roads, rates, rubbish sort of as up the top. But this is coming up with different ideas, so it's kind of a good process. But I would like to see more people. But anyway, thanks for coming, and I will be here after the meeting closes, so if you do want to ask any questions, you can ask me.
Thanks so much. Have a great night.